Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. This morning we are celebrating the 62nd anniversary of Trinidad and Tobago's independence, but we're also celebrating TTT's 62nd anniversary. And this morning to do so, I want to welcome two legends here at TTT, Mr. Hansley Ajodha and Gideon Hanomansingh. Good morning to you, sir.
Morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning to you. I don't know if legend is the right word.
Why not?
It puts a timeline to your life.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
I mean, but you've done legendary things. I mean, for me, I can say growing up, hearing the names and hearing the voices
it's a
nightly.
lovely compliment, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I mean, to me, you are a legend. At the end of the day, like, I am in a position now because you were here before. I am in this position now because of the way that you all would have paved and the work that you would have done right here.
In spite of ourselves. In spite of ourselves and our reputation.
And this is the part that I am most interested in, is tell me about that experience now that you look back. Let me start with you, Hansley.
All right. I thought you would have let my senior go because he...
I want to save the best for last. I don't understand.
Oh, yes, certainly. Exactly. All right. Absolutely. And I agree with you completely. Well, I came to the studio, as a matter of fact, back in 1987. Sayo, I think we shot Willie Chen's Tainted Blood. Mm-hmm. I started in TTT's studio with Play of the Month, in those days with the great Horace James. And following that, I went on to shoot No Boundaries. And, of course, I was doing a number of things. And eventually, I came across to Trinidad and Tobago television when I was, at the time, on 610 Radio,
right.
Abercrombie Street, National Broadcasting Service.
But when you look back now at the work that you would have done while here at TTT, how does it make you feel?
Oh, I'm very proud of things because this show, as a matter of fact, was started by myself. And Wendell Constantine came up with the idea, and he sat down and he said, let's do a morning show. Brian Lara was captaining the West Indies team in South Africa. The tour was on in South Africa. And we decided that the 20-minute break, Sire, it was a 20-minute break, Colin Murray and I started doing a discussion on the game, and that's how this evolved, and eventually it went on to a 2-hour morning show. So I did your Playway, I did your Panorama News, I did Community Dateline, almost every show that you had back then. So much so that they used to call it HATV. The Fosto sang about me too. The Fosto sang about me, and I was almost a fixture inside of here.
Yeah. Well, speaking of fixtures inside of here.
Here and across the road.
And across the road as well.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
Mr. Hanomansingh, I'm curious as to your reflection as you look back on, you look back at 62 years of TTT, but look back at your experience here. Tell me, what do you see when you look back?
The only recollection that occupies my mind when I pass here, in the context of my involvement, is not the 1990 coup, when I was resident here with Sayo and so many other people for 6 horrendous days, but when the set was on the other side, and sitting on that set, realizing those who had come before. My brother is one of them, who's still around. Dale Kola Singh, Bobby Thomas, Yusuf Ali, Jimmy Wong, Russell Winston, men of stature, June Gonzalez, Brenda De Silva, people who presented Trinidad and Tobago to this nation. I felt humbled to have succeeded those people. In fact, at one stage it was Dale, Bobby, and myself. We will alternate the news. And it was always a pleasure, a great honor to sit among them, sit on the same set with them on different days to present the news. And my intention was to learn from them and begrudgingly to be better than they were.
Right.
For the simple reason that if I had achieved that, it would benefit the nation of Trinidad and Tobago and the viewers of this station.
Okay. Tell me, how important was that responsibility to the nation, that sense of national pride?
When you go to dinner or you walk the streets and you meet people and they talk to you about how they received Panorama, the newscast, and what it meant to them. School children being told, go home, look at the news, and write a review of what you saw the night before. And one of the questions was, who was the presenter? You had to say who the presenter was. When you hear these kinds of stories, you know that you're reaching out to the nation in a very positive way. And that's what, that carried me. That carried me. You know, I want to say this, and Hansley knows this very much. I was covering the Commonwealth Summit in the Bahamas, and one evening after filing, I decided, let me sit by the bar and have a drink.
That's a good place.
Yes, of course. It's always a place of reflection.
True.
And planning, future planning. And I saw this thing called CNN. And I sat there looking at this for an hour. And I said to myself, one day I'll get there. And that day came, to the extent where I was invited to Atlanta, Georgia, to a contributors conference, World Report. And that year, a boat carrying passengers from Haiti to Florida sank, and 150 people perished. And CNN mounted immediately an international news conference, because it was at the same time when Nelson Mandela was being installed as the president of South Africa. So there was Bernard Shaw, and I think the station has a Bernard Shaw here in DK. His father wanted him to be Bernard Shaw.
Okay.
He probably will tell you that story. Christian Amanpour was somewhere in the Middle East, and Bill Delaney, I remembered, with Judy Woodruff at the Carter Center. And in front of this little Trinidad and Tobago television reporter stood the most powerful political figure on the face of the earth, President Bill Clinton, who had promised that he was going to restore democracy to Haiti and reinstate Jean-Bertrand Aristide, who was overthrown by General Raoul Cedras. And he reneged on his promise. So I was asked to interview President Clinton on U.S. Caribbean foreign policy. And I questioned him about that, and I said, you reneged on your promise. And he shook his head and he said yes. He accepted the fact that he made these promises during the campaign, but he never fulfilled them. And he said, very soon, something will happen. During the week of that interview, American troops went in. They restored democracy in a fragile form, and they reinstated Jean-Bertrand Aristide. All the newspapers in the United States carried that as headline, not naming me, but saying a journalist from Trinidad and Tobago posed a question to President Clinton, and this is the result of that interview. It was a great moment in my career. Of course, you know, I was invited by CNN to take up a job, but to go to Haiti. I can't speak French. And at that time, Haiti was the hot spot in that region of the world. So I told them, let me come home, think about it, and I will get in touch with you. I came home. I got a call from Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj about Pointe-à-Pierre, the constituency, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. Speaking of history, gentlemen, joining us via Zoom this morning, we have another generation of TTT stalwart in the form of Miss Lisa Wickham joining us on Zoom. Good morning to you, Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Rokas. Good morning, Hansley and Gideon. How are you doing, Rokas?
Morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you again. I think I saw you just yesterday.
Well, Lisa, nice to have you on. Nice to have you on with us. Tell us from your perspective, what does it mean to celebrate 62 years of TTT?
Wow, 62 years of TTT.
Don't give away your
And
age.
I have been doing it since I'm 6 years old. I'm not 62, but close. So that means I literally grew up on and with TTT, you know. So for me, it feels as if, you know, you go through growing pains just as an individual. You know, you go through adolescence, teenage years, and the adult early 20s, and then your middle age and so on. I feel like that's my experience, both as a human being, as a presenter, producer, with TTT, as well as the life of the station, the lifeblood of the station, you know. And for me, TTT will always be home. You know, it's like being full circle, just looking at what it was back in the days of Rikki Tikki and Party Time, when it was just one TV station and everyone in the country had to look at TTT. And now, 62 years later, we have all this sort of noise happening. You have, you know, social media and TikTok and YouTube and all of that. But at the end of the day, TTT gives us ourselves, right? And people are still journeying. 62 years later, the nation is still journeying and still loving TTT because of the Live for Local campaign and the fact that we can present. I think it's only TTT can present Trinidad and Tobago in a way that nobody else can. Right? And I think that's important.
With legitimacy.
With legitimacy, yes, I agree with that 100%. Lisa, tell me, what does national pride mean to you as a TV presenter, as a TV producer, as a movie producer? What does national pride mean to you?
I think national pride is all embodied in national identity. And I believe that as a producer, we have to think about, and even as presenters, we have to think about what identity is and what Trinidad and Tobago identity is and how we present that to each other and to the rest of the world. So I'll give you an example. When we did the film Powered Home, The Power of the Caribbean Diaspora, so we looked at Caribbean diaspora, not Trinidad and Tobago, because we're everywhere, but, you know, we looked particularly at the Guyanese in Canada and the Surinamese in Holland and the Jamaicans in London. I'll tell you something. We met this Jamaican outside of his home, and he was speak British. He's British Jamaican, second generation, right? Didn't grow up in Jamaica. And he's speaking standard British English. And when we went to his home, from the time he closed the door, he started to speak, you know, I wouldn't even attempt a Jamaican accent right now.
It's Lisa.
I said, hey, what's happening here? What's happening here, right? And he said, when we growing up, once we passed the door of our home, we are Jamaican, right? So, you know, that sense of identity of who they are now, Trinidad and Tobago, we rally around each other, you know, whether it's steel band, football, cricket, whatever, athletes and so on. When we're winning, we rally. And I think as producers, we have to take that momentum to the next level and continue to show in an authentic way ourselves to ourselves.
And listen, Lisa, we have our own example of what you're talking about in Trevor McDonald. You meet Trevor on the streets doing his coverage, and you hear Trevor McDonald, the former BBC ITN man who is respected all over the world. The moment you get into the social spin of things, then you hear Trevor McDonald, who sat here in this very studio reading the news and working at Radio Trinidad and becoming all Trinbagonian all over again.
Nice.
I'd like to make a point, and Lisa, it's borrowed from what you were talking about just a while ago. For me, for a little boy who came from San Fernando, jumping pavements with a little BMX burner, and to come on TTT, I owe TTT my life. I owe Horace James my life, because this Tuesday coming here, my film is playing in the Latin American Caribbean Film Festival. through this place, there were so many things to be realized. National pride for me is absolute because Mother Trinidad and Tobago has been very gracious to me. It is one of the greatest things to have happened to come to TTT and build a life from here as a little boy from San Fernando. So this place is not only about national pride, this is the lifeblood. This is the lifeblood of all of us. And this is why I hope that TTT will continue to endure. And this is why I hope Trinidad and Tobago, people will recognize what a great, this is just a dot on the earth.
But we
this
have
is
such
just
a huge
dot.
impact.
And look at what we've done. We gave the world the most beautiful woman on earth, the fastest man in the world.
A few times, huh?
Yeah, several times. But look at this little institution here we call TTT that continues to endure for 62 years and giving birth to young people, wonderful young people, beautiful young people like you all. And it also gave me a life.
Yeah.
I'm playing in the Latin American Caribbean Film Festival, playing in Brasilia. Where would you hear that? Had it not been for here.
Of course. Now, here's the thing, right? We have, unfortunately, we're out of time this morning because this conversation, we need a whole show just to sit and chat and reminisce on TTT. And of
need a
course,
month.
You have
yeah, we
coffee?
need a month, huh?
I hope you all give me a coffee the next time I come. And by the way, Gideon and I want one of those, please.
That is above my pay grade, sir. But we will discuss it after we finish the interview. I know that's what you're talking about. Here's what. Before we wrap quickly, I just want you guys to give Trinidad and Tobago our independence message. Let me start with Lisa, who's on Zoom. Lisa, can you give the nation a message for Independence Day, please?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot first, man.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I would say my message is that, as we grow as a nation, we want to strive for excellence. We want to strive to continue because we have already done so, but we want to continue making our mark and lifting up our nation in the global space. And we can do that starting in our home, starting in our schools, starting with us as an individual. If we seek to be excellent in whatever we do, if we hold our country first and we put our country above anything else, we can take our place alongside the greats in the world, in the national space. Happy Independence, Trinidad and Tobago. Live your joy, live your spirit, and let's continue being as excellent as we know we can be.
Thank you so much,
That's
Lisa.
me.
Hansley?
I want to say that there's a million reasons as to why to be proud of Trinidad and Tobago. Take the time to find out. This is a great, great nation. And while there's so many negatives happening around us, there will always be negatives, as is the case with every country. National pride is something that we must feel for each and every citizen. And we have every right to be, because we live in a great, great nation. And I thank God every day for being a citizen here and being born here. Thank you, Trinidad and Tobago, Mother Trinidad and Tobago. Happy independence, 62 years.
Gideon, you have 30 seconds. There we go.
It's always good to sit among people who are intelligent, who say things that will help you not to repeat what they've said, because the thoughts are the same. So as I wish Trinidad and Tobago happy independence, you made a point earlier in your show talking about the unity that we need in Trinidad and Tobago to foster exactly what Hansley has said and what Lisa is thinking. And that is my wish as well. Before we conclude, before my 30 seconds are up, I searched for this tie to wear it this morning because this was the tie that I wore in 1993 when I read my last newscast on TTT.
Nice.
Wow.
Iconic. You see what I mean? Iconic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Mr. Gideon Hanomansingh. Thank you so much for joining us, Hansley Ajodha.
My last tie, I left my pie.
And thank you so much for joining us as well, Lisa Wickham on set. Happy birthday, TTT. Happy Independence, Trinidad and Tobago. We take a quick break and come back with more on in our morning show. Stay tuned.